In this episode, we are full on spoilers.
Hi, I'm Mistress Leigh-A.
I'm Bill, also known as Matt Stagger.
And I'm the Geeky Hippie. Welcome back to What the Adaptation, a YouTube show that reviews adaptations from one form to another. We've got a returning guest this week, AP Canavan. How you doing?
I am doing very well. Thank you for inviting me back on, particularly for this book and film discussion, because
yes,
what does Jane Austen need? Zombies. That's why we're here.
Fuck yeah.
100%.
Fuck yes. Absolutely.
For anybody who doesn't know out there, could you tell them what your channel's about?
I talk about narrative in film, television, and books, and I typically do like close readings of things and talk about the narrative techniques that storytellers use within their narrative. So it's a highly exciting octane-fueled channel.
It's informative and education, which is what
it's
YouTube
fun.
is good at.
Don't let him mess with you.
It is that. Yeah, he's fun, especially when you're doing a series right now with your nemesis.
Yes, the evil Dr. Philip Chase.
Yes.
Just going through like very foundational approaches to understanding when we watch stuff and you go, oh, characters. What are the different words we can use to describe character and understand character, or understand setting, or understand world building, or understand symbolism? That these are all tools in our toolkit when we want to discuss something, rather than, but this is what happened. You're like, right, but we can advance the discussion slightly further beyond that, and that's part of what Philip and I are just chatting about, is helping people who haven't had the opportunity to study it get some insight into the things that we teach, at university.
Fascinating.
Well, thank you for coming on to discuss this. We are going to be finishing up, our Pride and Prejudice series this week with Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, if you can't tell already. We've been excited about this one for quite a few months now since we decided to do this series, and we thought it was appropriate to wrap it up with this. First of all, what do you guys think of the book?
Loved it.
Oh my god, I fucking loved it. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did. But also, I listened to the most recent version of the audiobooks, which was revamped by the author. And he actually did the foreword and was saying, like, he didn't think that the crossover between the people who like Pride and Prejudice and the people who like zombies would actually intersect. And there was a little bit inside of me that was like, fuck you, asshole. Like, seriously, why did you not think that like people who like Jane Austen are not allowed to like zombies? Like, we're allowed to like both. So
I mean, I'll be the first to admit I am not a huge fan of Jane Austen's writing. I struggled with the book a lot. However, the zombie version, I did not struggle with nearly as much. I'm going to be honest. I loved it. I tore through it and then did it again. I listened to it once and read it once. So I really enjoyed it. In my opinion, it's just what it needed. Some real stakes where you're like, oh no. Oh no. I mean, I get there were stakes before. It's just I have trouble getting in that mindset of that time where if you didn't get married, all was lost.
Stakes.
I have a hard time getting in that headspace, I guess. But, zombies I get.
I have to admit,
that's nice.
If someone was to push me on this, I would say that I prefer Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. That would be my preference of these two books. That Austen's work is just phenomenal, and I love it. On the other hand, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is a lot more fun. And it is hands down the book that is more fun. And the film that is more fun. And yeah, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it the first time I read it way back when. And because I remember seeing the trailer for the film when it was coming out in the cinema. What was that, like 2016 or something?
2015.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing the trailer like forthcoming. And I went, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies? I went out and bought the book so I could read it beforehand. And that's when I first read it. And then I watched the film and went, yeah, this is fun. It kind of, the kind of genre mashing that you go, what happened one night? Was it I had a couple of drinks too many and someone was talking about Pride and Prejudice and I misheard them and went, oh yeah, the zombies. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. Let me write this book.
Yeah, I remember around this time, we were getting, right after the success of this novel, we started getting more like Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter,
Yes,
and things like that.
Yeah.
We started getting more of those crossovers. Not quite as successful as this one was.
No.
Yeah, the historical horror, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, sort of fantasy horror historical crossover.
Yeah.
I have to confess, the reason I first read Pride and Prejudice or listened to it a couple years ago was because of this movie. I remember seeing trailers for this movie, found out it was, obviously it's based on Pride and Prejudice. Everybody's at least heard of Pride and Prejudice, whether you'd read it or watched it. And I'm like, I'm not going to read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies before reading Pride and Prejudice. I'm not going to. That just didn't seem right to me. So,
Purist. That's why I love you so much.
but
So
I've
purist.
now read both of them 4 times, and yeah, Pride and Prejudice is definitely, I'd have to say, better written. Than
so Pride and Prejudice is what.
And that's not
actually,
a diss
Glenn,
on
can
Graham
we go
Smith.
into real quick how Pride, Prejudice, and Zombie is actually written?
You want to bring that up? I was going to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a riff. It's not a fanfic. So what the author did was literally go line by line. And this was the very interesting thing about his narrative that I did appreciate. I didn't tell him to go fuck off on this part as I was listening to his in the audiobook, but he described his process, and he would just and his goal was on every page, what he would do is he would make one change and he would highlight it in red. And because he thought it was an appropriate color for zombies. And his goal was to have at least one marking of red on every page of a word change, a line out, or an addition. And sometimes he had entire pages of red. But so we literally took the entire text. So for those of you who haven't read the book or listened to the book, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, it is literally Jane Austen's book with zombies in it. So it's not a fanfic. It's not it is Jane Austen. It is her exact same words for the most part. And then the author does such a great job of going through and putting in his exposition to change the story to zombies.
And I love they call them unmentionables.
Unmentionables.
Yes.
Unmentionables. Ooh.
I couldn't tell you what he cut, if anything. I know he added a lot or changed certain lines.
He didn't cut anything. He changed and added. That's it.
Did he say that in the foreword? I don't remember that in the foreword.
He only changed and added. That's the only thing that he did.
I
mean, he might have just for syntax, he might have deleted a couple of words to make it grammatically better. But
I'd have to go page by page comparing the two, and to see exactly, because sometimes it's seamless. I think
it is. It's so good. I was listening to it while I was on a walk, and I was like, "Get the fuck out!" I was dying.
So, did you like the movie as much?
Yes, for different reasons, because it's really different.
Yeah,
I mean, the differences between the movie and the actual book, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, is just very different.
And weirdly enough, I prefer the movie Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
What?
Really?
Well,
okay.
When I read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, I kept being struck by, but Pride and Prejudice is. And that's a change, and that that's not quite right, and that doesn't sound quite right, and that's not quite how Austin would have phrased it, and that dialogue that isn't as sharp, or I kept running into that, and it is no fault of the book. Like he's writing it with zombies.
Yeah, well, in them being able to travel to the Orient and like all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of like, okay, I'm just pressing an I believe button on this.
And so in reading Pride and Prejudice, or reading Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, because it's the same medium, because it's the same format, because it's roughly the same sort of story,
right,
and because of how much I love Austen, it was harder for me to enjoy that aspect of the writing. Put it in film form, and I'm in a completely different medium, and I go, oh, right, let's go to town with this. And it's a different genre. It has that whole action thing. It's an action horror comedy. And you go, right, that it has a whole different set of criteria that I am comfortable now separating from Austen's work. Or even any of the filmic or BBC, like all of the BBC adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Which I grew up with. It's kind of like you were forced to watch it all the time growing up in the UK. But the film version I could enjoy on a completely different level, because it was, turn literary brain off and watch people in a restoration romance kill zombies. Yep, this is fine.
I kind of wish, so in a completely different vein, I kind of wish I'd watched the movie before I'd read the book.
I think I would have, in retrospect, been a little more upset with some of the changes with the movie if I had read the book first, because I watched the movie first. Or other way.
Because I did enjoy the way the author changed the book, and then trying to do a comparison. Then, so if I had just compared it to Jane Austen's work, and I'm completely blanking on the name, that's why I keep saying the author,
Seth Grahame-Smith.
Thank you, Seth's work. Then I think that would have been, because it is very different. It is very, very different from what the movie is. Very different from the book content.
Yeah,
and I kind of
subplot, the Lazarus subplot,
Saint Lazarus. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Which
I don't know, but
discovered is actually mentioned in the book. It is actually mentioned.
It is, and there's follow-on books. So I'm wondering if like the follow-on books dive deeper into that, but which I haven't. So Glenn, I didn't know if you'd read or listened.
I haven't read them. I haven't read past this one yet.
Yeah, because I think there's.
So if anybody watching, please leave a comment.
Yeah, there's
2 books after this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't wait. Like, I need to get some more Audible credits to pop up, but like definitely on my TBL list.
I still call it a TBR.
Yeah, TBR. Anyways, go ahead, Glenn.
What are some other changes then that stand out that worked for you or didn't work for you? For instance, I liked the change of the whole beginning, that opening scene, that whole scene was new. That are
we talking about the book or the movie?
The movie. From the changes from the movie, to when they made this movie.
Right.
I liked having Darcy and Bingley, them actually being active military at the time. Although I would have liked to see them in uniform instead of black leather trench coat. It looks all cool and stuff, but it kind of looks silly and fighting alongside the red coats.
Was kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie.
They're like special forces, right?
They look good.
Yeah,
special forces.
I loved the movie up until Saint Lazarus, and then it got. This is going to sound weird because the movie itself is a cheesy concept, but it got too cheesy for me once we got to St. Lazarus's.
I was already bought in, so I just rode that horse all the way to the end, and I loved it. So, at that point, I had already, So I was like, yeah, I don't care. I don't know what's going on, but I like it. It's fun. It gives us a sort of different, complete look at every character in different situations we didn't get in the book. So,
Right.
you know, it's just an exploration.
Everything, all the other changes, though, you know, that's the one change that bothered me was the Saint Lazarus, but I'd still, you know, I don't dislike the movie. I was disappointed. I had really, really high expectations after reading the book, you know, and how much I love the book. I'm like, all right, this is going to be awesome. And then I was like, oh, all right, so this is 2/3 the book and then a third something new. Like,
well, that was me in World War Z. I mean, when that movie came out after I read the Max Brooks book of World War Z, I was the same way. I was like, I see what they were doing, but So I understand where you're coming from. I'll tell you a little fact that I absolutely loved was their sort of hierarchical pissiness about where you were trained. If you were trained in Japan, you got money. If you're trained in China, you're a lesser. And I love that little detail.
That was in the books, yes, which was wonderful. Yeah. I love that they included that. So it was very, very telling of the story. So
because that was the one that I would have pointed out was one of the changes made was, yes, this is referenced in the book, but what they did was they focused on it and made it a big point as this signifier,
right?
Because they just threw it in there, and all of the Bennett's, they all trained in China, and it's the vapors. I did. You went to China.
Some of us had to train in China.
And
I have one of those.
Doubled down on it. It emphasized it, and it brought it to the fore because it was. When you think of the start of the book, they mentioned that they trained elsewhere or they trained in the Orient. But it's only later on that suddenly, particularly with Lady Catherine, they make this big point about it. And then there we have another slight change is that what Lizzie has to do in the book in front of Lady Catherine, which is so ridiculous and over the top, like the finger walking and all
that.
For days. But they simplified it for the film. And you go, because the film was a tighter, more action, and it was cutting down somewhat on the complexity of the Regency romance aspects, but dialing up on it, let's give people the zombie film that they are here to see. And that's why I don't mind those changes. That's why that change to medium really helped me. But whereas I run smack bang into that issue when it was reading the two books.
Well, and one thing I did appreciate about the film is they did show a lot more of what happened in London, and so you got much more of a you got a little bit of a description about it in the books, but they showed a lot about what happened. Well, in just like every time they went in and out of London, it was this, it was a literal modern era style siege of the city, and they were going in and just the moats, the barricades, just everything, the entry points of the city. You had to have a reason to go in there, and it looked like a World War I landscape, which I think is probably the most appropriate analogy for that. It's just like it was brutal, and
it did look very trench warfare-ish.
Very trench warfare, because you had to make sure. It was fascinating to me. What I didn't like was Wickham being the apex bad guy, as opposed to the books. Where I loved in the books where he basically became like Darcy, again, full spoilers, basically paralyzes him, and he goes, and he does what he does in Jane Austen's book and goes to go into the clergy, but it's like this paraplegic clergy, and Lydia is still delighted.
The seminary, the seminary he goes to, that's St. Lazarus. That's the mention it gets in the book.
Yes.
Yeah, I missed that. Glenn brought it to my attention. I'm like,
I didn't. Yeah. But yeah. So I don't like Wickham does not get to be the apex bad guy. He doesn't get to be that cool. He's just a fucking douchebag. So that's one of the things in the movie that really
tell us how you really feel.
Really pissed me off. I was like, no, of all the people to be the ultimate, like, make Collins the ultimate bad guy, please.
Did you see the middle of the credit sequence? The scene in the mid credits?
No.
Oh, during the wedding, as they're all walking away, as the four of them are walking towards the gate, it cuts to credits, and you have like a minute of credits, and then it comes back to them walking, and then they all start making faces as they look off in the distance. The camera turns, and there's a horde of zombies charging, and Wickham comes riding forward with his fake
he's not allowed
arm.
to be that cool. He's not allowed to be that cool.
He had his arm replaced with like a morning star.
No.
The end of it.
No. I reject this idea of Wickham being that badass. Fuck Wickham. So, anyways.
Don't mess with the roof, mistress.
No, I will fucking stab him. So much.
Yeah, it's not going to do any good with Wickham. Unless you get him in the face.
Well, I mean, you get him in the brain, it matters.
Yeah.
But it's a very small brain. Like, it's a tough target.
Good point.
True. That is
really
so
small
true.
target.
And that's why, yeah, you could keep just stabbing away and then, like, you just don't hit the brain. So, it's very unfortunate.
But
I'm not gonna lie, the film version, Darcy is my favorite Darcy.
This film version of Darcy?
Yeah, it's my favorite Darcy. I don't care. I'm sticking to it. That is my favorite
I'm the
Darcy.
polar opposite. He's my least favorite Darcy on screen.
Oh, he's my favorite. He's
Glenn,
just
are you a
awkward enough where you get an idea.
Glenn, are you a Colin Firth Darcy?
Oh, he is.
I think he was better. Him and Ely are the two headcanon that I still have. You know, they're still both the headcanon, the best acting. But
the BBC Darcy. BBC Darcy.
Yeah.
Not Beth is the only one that can actually pronounce his
name. No, I love Sam Riley.
Name is,
yeah.
he was
Sam
good.
Riley is my Darcy.
I've never even heard of Sam Riley until I looked this movie up. So
yeah, me either.
I don't know anything he's been in.
I think all of the different portrayals of Darcy are fascinating because you can see how they accentuate and try to project certain elements more so than others. Where, you know, the level of arrogance, how you do arrogance can be quite telling. And, you know, Colin Firth being quite clipped. But then you see almost like the coldness in this. And it's the same thing. They're saying the same lines, but what that actor brings to it, you go, I didn't see it that way before. And I always find that fascinating, seeing multiple
versions of the
same character.
Have you seen the 1941 or 1940 version with Greer Garson and Laurence Olivier?
No.
Don't.
Some of it's good. There's some good acting. There's some good acting, and I have to say Olivier's a really good Darcy. But
Olivier and Greer do amazing in their roles, but the rest of it is just like the costumes. I couldn't get past the costumes. So, anyways, that's a previous episode. Go watch that episode to hear my opinions about the costumes.
I recommend checking it out sometime if you want to see some good acting.
This version of Darcy, I think, was probably the least obviously on the spectrum. Because I'm telling you,
Olivier was the least on the spectrum, I would say.
No, he had a little bit.
So
there.
I think this Darcy, it has a little bit of PTSD, and you can see that a little bit as he's.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So it's not the spectrum per se, but there's that war hardened, like you
killing my dad trauma. Yeah.
And just life is just like it's constant battle and having to like people who live in war zones constantly and you're having to constantly fight. You just have this like, all right, I'm just going to suck it up and go with it. And this is my life, but also so fucked up. and you can't get past that. It's so, and that's why people who have been in battle together have these bonds that there's only people that you can talk about that with. And like, not gonna lie, it's really, it's unfortunate because we can't talk to other people about it. There's just no way to literally describe it. And I think the book doesn't do quite as good of a job bonding Lizzie and Darcy that way, but I think the movie does a better job about bonding Lizzie and Darcy that way, and that they have this constant ongoing mission. First of all, mission, but the trauma that's associated with a mission, knowing that their friends and family are may or may not be killed anytime, what they've seen. Like, it's very overwhelming. And like in the show, the movie, it makes a little bit of light of it, but it also does show it, which is fascinating to me.
Well, that's one of the things, obviously, that he doubles down on in the novel, is her constant references to duty, but you're obviously reading it in the duty to fight the zombies, as opposed to the duty to the family or the duty to get married. That her constant focus on that, and the refrains about her training and needing to do these things, and the clear parallels that are drawn between her and Darcy because of that. They are both incredibly focused and driven. And they're both judgmental about other people, and they're both uncomfortable with these other people.
They're
and
prejudiced. They might be prejudiced against other people, you might even say.
Yeah.
Someone should name the story that.
Right?
But and that really came across quite well. So when we see it in terms of the action, where we can actually see her punching things and doing things, and it gets that across very visually in an action way, which we associate more with, all of the different military movies that we've watched and the different action movies. We see that bonding, and it's easier for us to process rather than someone just reassuring us that, oh yes, I have this duty. And is it no, but I just saw you kill all those zombies and then feel bad about it.
Well, it's fascinating because we have this context of the story already. So it's almost like the movie could bypass a lot of like plot line just because we know Lizzie and Darcy's story.
We're already looking for it. We're already
looking for it. So they go straight into the action. They go straight into the different drama. Yeah, the drama of the zombies. So not the drama of the romance. Because we know.
Zombies.
Right. One of the things I absolutely love about the film version, the getting ready montage where they turn the kitting up, in action movies where they get the guns out, and it's the getting ready to go to the ball.
Yeah, knives.
Just playing that trope that way. And I remember seeing it, just like bursting out laughing, going, that is the perfect use of your montage of getting ready for action. And then slipping the weapons in at the end as well. And it doubled over for both. And you just go, yeah, this is fantastic.
I love the difference in weapons as well. You could tell the weapons that, the Bennetts use as opposed to the other people who are trained in Japan, the difference between the katana and, the different weapons the Bennetts had. Little differences like that. I love those little details. They make me
I noticed that during the duel between Wickham and Darcy. Darcy had a katana, but Wickham still had I think that was a cutlass or whatever the name is, the proper term is for the saber-type blade that British officers wore at that time. I'm not sure what kind of sword that is.
I think it would be a saber.
A saber of some sort. But yeah, I noticed that during that fight scene. I hadn't really paid attention to what in the weapons they were using until then, but just because usually it was too dark to see a lot of the weapons, but
really, I didn't have that problem.
I was not paying that much
my-
attention, but I will on my
Yeah,
next
but I-
watch.
Yeah, I'm the guy who keeps my brightness all the way down though on my screen, so that's
Yeah.
my own fault.
Mm.
I have to.
Modern cinema is not for you then.
No, although I did have a good time going to see Dune. It was just my problem with Dune was it was too noisy. It was way too loud.
But that's a
Oh, the IMAX would have killed you then.
That's another episode for another discussion on what the
So-
adaptation, because you guys do talk about Dune.
Yes, we have. And we've a bunch of the videos in our back. Check out. We've got playlists for Dune.
Mm-hmm.
So
you do.
let's talk about favorite scenes or pieces of dialogue or anything like that. I mean, AP already mentioned the whole perfect use of the montage there. Anything else that stands out, AP?
Well,
For you?
the fight at the very, very beginning where, the Bennett girls, all flip around and get into their, what was
Yes.
it? The
Yes.
The assembly.
pentagram or something, the defensive star.
Yeah.
And
Pentagram
they,
of
they
death.
all do the action pose. And like, if you remember back to the remake of Charlie's Angels that they did, like going into those ridiculous over-the-top poses for the martial arts stuff. But they did that, and they end up in that perfect star formation. And of course, that's what's described in the book. And that was the sort of thing where when you read it, you have something in your head. But when I saw that, I went, that is such a beautiful way to evoke that thing. And it was a wonderful moment of evoking the sense of what was in the novel, but in a way that it was shot differently. It wasn't focused on the same actions, but it created the thing. So I really enjoyed that moment.
For me, I think one of my favorite moments was probably Darcy when he's out in the rain in his night clothes, just beating the crap out of the hedges with the sword. I think it's the first real peak we get in that this man has emotions. He buries them deep, but when they come out, he needs an outlet.
Yeah.
So this is my first sort of moment of going, okay, I get it. You're that guy who just buries everything, no emotion, robot.
Don't you
until
do
it's
stress gardening like the rest of us? Like, I thought that was perfectly, like in the middle of the night, you get up, you go out with your swords and you hack at hedges. Like that's how we all deal with our emotions.
Well, I mean, it's kind of normal here in Florida, whether we like it or not. So.
It's the only time it's cold enough to go outside and do gardening.
That's a fair point.
It's the Mr. and Mrs. Smith scene that's my favorite scene in the movie. It's when after he proposes and then they have a fight. They're fighting all across that room, and watching that just made me think of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the movie with Brangelina. So,
R.I.P.
It's just that fight just reminded me of that. But that good. I like the choreography.
The choreography was good, and I'm sure that's the next one.
It was. I thought it was some of the better choreography. There's 3 standout scenes of choreography. I wasn't expecting a halfway decent sword fight scene, and it was halfway decent. This scene was, and then I liked the choreography at I think it was the assembly ball at the assembly hall ball. The one he was just talking about with the Pinnacle of Death. I think that's where that one was, but. There are other little bits that I just enjoyed, just like little beats that just had one and it slipped my brain. So I'll let somebody else talk.
One of my favorites was Lena Headey just on her pseudo throne. The first shot that you see her as Catherine de Bourgh in the patch on her eye, and she's just sitting there she just is going to dominate everybody there in the best sort of way.
Yes, please.
I know, right? Yes, exactly. Thank you, ma'am. What do I need to do for you? Please.
Dude, that's the sexiest eye patch. Sorry, Uno, but that is the sexiest eye patch I've ever seen.
That is the sexiest eye patch.
Do you not remember Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
I never got to that.
Oh, so good.
I never watched that. I watched the first 5 minutes and had to take off.
Well, Glenn,
friends.
like if you have an eye patch fetish like these other people do, then maybe you might want to check that out.
That's a good iPad.
I might have to.
Mhm.
I might have to.
Anyway, I might have to go watch this after we finish.
There's a reason we love Pirates and Samuel L. Jackson. It's the eye patch, man.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of how they changed Catherine's character from Pride and Prejudice? She's still pretty close in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies in a number of regards, but obviously with some
Right.
So, I mean,
The film
Lena
version is
Headey
very good.
can do nothing wrong, in my opinion. I did have kind of, I was like, there's no way. I was like, okay, so let's do some weird mental math. Like maybe this is the aunt and the nephew that are the same age because they kind of are the same age and whatever. So that was one of my, like, she's supposed to be an old lady, but she's really not.
Yeah. But I was fine with it because it's Lena Headey.
I love the fact that they sort of turned her from this vindictive, for no reason, sort of nosy busybody into a badass, but badass for a reason. You know,
Right.
Well, but the book does that. The book makes Catherine de Bourgh this like insane badass who is like very accomplished. Well, and again, but accomplished in a very physical way as opposed to the nuanced ways of that era.
Catherine de Bourgh versus Lizzie is the fight I wanted to see the most. Going into this, I wanted to see them fight. I knew we weren't going to get what was in the book because that just not going to happen. But
that would have been insane.
I was.
I know, right?
Wilhelm,
but seriously, like when they were
out.
in those catacombs, like let those bitches fight, please.
Yeah,
This is like
that was under the house because Mrs. Bennett earlier in the movie was saying you're going to knock down the house, you're going to tear down the house when they were fighting in the basement in the cellar. And now there is actually this fight in the cellar, and the one pillar gets knocked out, and he gets knocked out because the bricks fall on him. The house needs fixing now. But yeah, I wanted to see Lena Headey and Lily James fight, and we didn't get that. So
well, and let's clarify in the books where there's when Catherine de Bourgh comes to the Bennett house to have the not so polite conversation with Lizzie, it actually turns into an all-out brawl where they challenge each other. And I'm imagining that this is a whole bunch of red writing where Scott is doing his thing, and or the author's name, whatever.
Yeah, it's straight out of a kung fu movie.
And yes, and Lizzie gets to the point where she can kill Catherine de Bourgh and literally just walks away. For the most part, like she has a little bit of like internal dialogue, which I think is based a little bit off of the original books, but then like kung fu's back and walks away.
It makes sense.
The same hand motions that I just made, which is very official.
Given where they were going with the story in the movie, it makes sense to me why they didn't. They need us to like her and care about her a little bit, and it needs to make sense on why she would invite the family to her house to come stay for protection. So, yeah, we needed that to make a little more sense, well, and it would have been a little harder to do that.
She's totally not.
Wait, hold on. AP had something to say.
Well, I was just going to say one of the really weird things, and
I
know this is going to sound weird, but the way that the film toned down some of the action of the book, and it sounds weird to suggest that this film toned down the action, but when it did that, it actually, even though it is this over the top sort of, when you read those sections, like Lizzie being blindfolded, taking out the three ninja, and then eating one of their hearts, and you imagine putting that on the screen, and you go, it's a wee bit too far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing that transition, go, well, if we're gonna rein that in a little bit, you can see the sort of that rationale behind it to go, right, we are going over the top and zombie, but not that over the top. And I thought that was a really interesting line to try and walk with a ridiculous over the top zombie movie.
Right. Well,
it's so true.
It's basically the same line as how cheesy it is. You know, being too cheesy, or it's in general, it's going to be cheesy. You know, because you're doing a zombie comedy, not a zombie drama.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, Shaun of the Dead. I mean, not really
I
cheesy.
love that movie, but it's
not really cheesy. I mean, I didn't get
not
cheese
to this
off.
level. Not this level of cheese. No.
Well, I think the filmmakers made a choice to go the cheesy route, because otherwise I feel like if they try to go the dramatic route, they might have been criticized in a weird way.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'd be taken seriously.
Or it would be taken too serious.
Well, but they would have needed to go the mini series route to do like so many iterations, and you can't do it in an hour and a half, 2 hours. To do it like not cheesy and do it dramatically correctly, but also Pride and Prejudice. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to ask. That's a lot.
Can we admit the balls it takes to take Pride and Prejudice and go, you know what? I'm adding zombies. Screw these people. I'm just going to do it. That takes guts,
you know what?
man.
Cheers.
I wouldn't have touched those novels. Ugh, yeah,
well,
I'd be terrified.
Well, on that point, I find that line that we were talking about before the stream started.
Which line?
Your balls, Mr. Darcy. He reached out and closed her hand around them and offered, they belong to you, Miss Bennet. There are some jokes
on
in
all
that.
aspects.
Well, see, that's the thing I didn't notice the first time I listened to Pride and Prejudice, the actual novel by Austen. I didn't notice comedy in there until I was re-listening to it, and I was listening to a different version, but I was paying a bit more attention, and I just started noticing, and some of it boils down to how Rosamund Pike performed some of the lines of delivery. But
Rosamund does amazing.
Mr. Bennet pretty much doesn't say a thing that's not a joke in some way or another.
Oh yeah,
every single line of his, and it's just it's one thing that I did it. So yeah, I didn't see the comedy in it, and so I took it too seriously the first time I read it, and I didn't enjoy it as much.
That's fair.
But because we were doing this, I reread it again and I gave it a fresh start, and I'm like, oh, this shit's funny.
Well, you'll remember when I was struggling to get through it, that was one of the things she said to me. It was, look at it as satire and look for the humor within what they're talking about. And I'm like, I was getting bits of it here and there, but when I look at the whole overall thing, it made it much easier for me to get through the book when I got stuck and was sort of like, I am not enjoying this.
Is that Cat Swain?
That's Cat Swain, yes.
That's what I thought. Hi, Cat Swain. Cats are always welcome to make video bombs here.
She's like, you invited. That's your fault.
Go ahead, AP.
Well, I would just say, as I pointed out earlier, the simplification of the Pride and Prejudice aspects of it kind of leans into the fact, because it is a shorter movie. It's not the miniseries. Right. It's not the big, long, full extended. Because even in the Hollywood, wasn't there a Hollywood movie of Pride and Prejudice? Was that the one with
Keira Knightley? Yep. Keira Knightley.
They still had to trim down some of the
they did
ins and outs of the Bennett machinations and running around chasing after people. That had to be trimmed away because you had to try and fit it into what a film is, as opposed to a long extended miniseries. And so doing that with also adding in a bunch of action sequences, which are again going to take away from your time to tell story, you go, right, well, if now we've removed that element and we've removed that element, what do we do for our climax? Where are we building toward? And so bringing in that the thing with the church and playing into all of the different levels of the stratification of society and how they are symbolically represented and dismissed by the
which
people
is
on both.
loosely acknowledged in the books. And again, this is why I'm wondering if that is something that is in maybe the future books, because there was definitely many years. Anyways, I'm going to let you continue.
But in playing into that,
Mm-hmm.
then you go, well, there's your obvious symbol for it. And that allows you to go, right, here's now our narrative structure for this. We'll make that into the film. Because if you think like the Bennets in comparison to say us, they are high society. But in comparison to other people in high society, you go, oh no, but they're low. They're low of the upper and this constant stratification, and then through it all,
they're Chinese trained.
And then bringing in the unmentionables and zombies as literally something that they can all be brought low by. And that's one of the reasons why they fear it. It doesn't matter where you are in society, you are not protected by this, and that is the thing to be feared. So if the Bennett sisters don't get married off, they can end up like the unmentionables. And suddenly you start playing with it, with these thematic connections running through zombies, a symbol of an underclass that the aristocracy are just destroying, and it is slowly eating away the country. Like, there are all of these wonderful things that make it a lot deeper as a film than it has any right to be.
Yeah. I will say I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, both book and movie. Way more than I thought I would.
That makes me so happy.
I probably would say that I would put Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, the novel, in my top 100, maybe 200 books, and that would take me a while to list that many, but when you figure I've read at least a few thousand books in 50 years, that's fairly high up there, I think.
I did really enjoy it. I was very gleeful as, again, I was just casually, I was like, all right, I'm going on a long walk. I'll just start listening to this. And a long walk for me is like 2+ hours. It's like, okay, I'll start listening to this. And I was just like, oh, I kind of love this. And this is really fun. And as I was, just literally just wanted to extend the walk, because I knew once I got home, I had like other things to do and I'd have to stop listening. So I just kept walking. It was like, shit, like I can't walk for like
too much fun.
That many hours. I can't.
I've circled the block to finish a chapter. I'm not gonna lie, in my car.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable. So like I definitely went further than I thought I would, and
I just had a ton of fun with it.
And like it is the entire thing. Like the movie, the books, they're fun.
AP?
Well, I just want to say the little thing with the corpse flies in the film and how they use that as that recurring sort of thing to go back to. I thought that was a very nice trick. And then when he's standing there and he releases the flies, when Lydia's in bed and Lizzie's standing there.
You know what? Also, fuck that, because Wickham's not allowed to be cool. But also, I agree with you, that's very brilliant. but
it was the way that you have that whole exchange where Lizzie is talking, and it's like the hand just shoots out, and then at the very end, she just drops all of the flies in his.
Well, she squeezes first.
Squishes them.
She squeezes
them,
and then says, "I believe these are yours."
But again, so just playing into it, but playing the scene completely straight, like they are having this conversation. And it's just that you just like the hand just doing this in the background.
It's great.
And it was so wonderfully done, because that's what made it funny, because they were playing it straight. As opposed to where like later on when you lean into it with the over the top zombie brains in the church, where let's just say it wasn't subtle anymore.
I love the fact that her overcharged pistol went off. And the injury they gave her was in the right spot, and it looked like powder burn. And I'm like, okay, I love that. I love that little detail that somebody paid attention to. Okay, what would happen if I overcharged a black powder pistol and tried to shoot it? And, you know, right where that metal plate was is where most of that heat would be transferred instead of the wood. So it made complete total sense. I just love that little detail.
There was one thing I wanted to ask, which was, now that we live in a post-COVID society, do you think that maybe this film has slightly different resonances? Because I saw it pre-COVID, but the idea that the rich and the powerful, there's this whole plague going on, and the rich and the powerful, oh, but it doesn't apply to me. I'm still going to go and have gatherings with my friends. And suddenly it rewatching it now that we are
hits a little different, yeah.
And I was like, this reminds me of all of those stories during lockdown of rich people and famous people who were still flying to other countries, who were still doing
Boris
all of
Johnson,
those,
having balls,
having a party,
while we were all stuck in our houses, while we couldn't go to loved ones' funerals. And watching this now, it really struck me that in a post-COVID society, we can see this privilege that these people have. And it's, well, I'm not going to let it keep me from my card game. And I think that actually changes a lot of how we respond to it as a text. Well, potentially it can, I think.
I didn't think about it that way, but now you're pointing it out. I'm like, no, you're 100% right. And I did look at that sort of differently than I would have probably 10 years ago or whatever. I probably wouldn't have noticed and been a little miffed that everybody's running around and doing stupid shite while everybody else is, you know, dying and getting eaten.
I did. I definitely, as I was listening, first of all, listening in the books, not so much watching the movie, like just kind of was trying to enjoy the movie. But during the books, I was like, it was almost prophetic to me, the way things were going and the way things happened. So like, yes, there's this entire plague that's going on and exactly what you said. So like the book reflected what happened in reality. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, that totally fucking happened. Even though that wasn't the intention of the book. The intention of the book was to like just do a fun zombie thing in the context. Like again, like they weren't, the author was not rewriting the text. He was taking and transmuting the text to say like, oh, zombies happen. And so like, and there's entire situations in the book where zombies have infected the party, and then Lizzie and Darcy have to go save the day. But yeah, like, and so it's like they weren't trying to change the text to say like, we want to do this. Which I'm pretty sure they probably would have if you like thought about it in the context. Like they probably wouldn't have thrown balls or whatever. If you were logically thinking about it, they would have like fucking stopped. But that's not the fucking point of the book.
My balls are yours.
If they were going to be making any sense, they would have just torched everything inside the in between. You know, so the sense is kind of thrown out the window.
Yeah.
You know,
I know, but when we think of Pride and
Prejudice
Prejudice
and monsters,
but even when we think of Pride and Prejudice, why do they assume like a man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife? Like the whole reason it starts with that is these assumptions of privilege that guide this aristocratic class,
which in that time was absolutely correct.
But it's the ironic critique of it that we get in the novel. So it's
right.
You see this critique of that level of privilege and how all of these things happen.
Absolutely.
When we transport it to the modern day and our understanding, say, of what happened during the pandemic, these people with enormous privilege and how they do it, that's what we are mapping now onto a text that never intended that. And yet,
Well-
that's one of the reasons why it fits so neatly, because it's an expression of that level of privilege.
Absolutely, but again, I think that's why this piece of work transcends. Is like there's so many things within it. So it's the privilege of the upper class. It's the audacity of men telling women what they should or shouldn't think, and and there's so many themes in there that are still, in spite of it being like 150 years old, being completely like, you can put this today and make a modern day Pride and Prejudice and it fucking works. And that's why this piece of work still is relatable today, why people love it, like women specifically, but also men who are total fucking douchebags. Like they enjoy it. Like if you can get back, if you can get past this, if you can get past the syntax, but like the story is transcendent.
Tim, we're not here.
To this day, unfortunately, those themes still exist, and it's just like, yeah,
Right.
I don't think I've ever been called a douchebag for liking Pride and Prejudice before, so that's a new one for me.
Oh
I think
no!
we're the other-
I was saying that the like people who are not douchebags. So
Oh, okay.
not douchebags. Like douchebags don't like
Yeah.
it. Douchebags don't like it. You are not a douchebag. So-
That's
Okay,
you, Bill.
I'm a douchebag.
That's you then, Bill.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
that's fair.
I'll let you two. I'll let you two fight that out later. So,
Yeah.
all right. What do you guys think of the production side of things with this movie? You know, from special effects to the music, you know, costumes. Leigh-A would, you know, I'm sure you paid attention to costumes.
fucking
I know
love
you
the
would.
costumes. Oh my god. Even the fact that they tried to like stick with mostly the era, but then Lena Headey with her like amazing boss bitch pantsuit with an eye patch. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't care. I
call
love
it Pirate Queen. She has a Pirate Queen look about her.
Pirate Queen. Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Costuming,
No,
I love special effects. I really enjoyed. I love special effects. It's one of my. I wanted to be a special effects artist growing up. Never made it there. Anyway, long story. I pay attention to that sort of stuff, and like the zombie baby was very well done and creepy. A lot of the makeup was just spot on.
Yeah.
The end there where we see the corpses missing their brains was very good. Just the veining and everything inside the head was very cool looking. It may not be anatomically specific, but it's very cool looking, and that's what I asked for.
At the beginning of the movie, in the prologue, when the daughter goes running up the stairs, opens the door, and Annabelle or whatever her name was sitting there eating, and she turns, and you watch as like half her nose just lofts right up. She's like, it made me think of a scene that we didn't get because they changed the Collins' storyline, but it made me think of the scene where they're eating dinner and a sore under her eye splats into the food, and Mrs. Collins starts eating even faster after she tries it, and I'm just like, oh. I was kind of wanting to see that, as gross as that sounds to want, but you know, it was one of those minor.
Yeah, Glenn, you need therapy.
I'm in it every 2 weeks.
We all need therapy, but for probably different reasons than wanting to see an eyeball eaten.
No, it wasn't an eyeball. It was a sore under her eye. Felt it was to get her food.
Yeah, it was.
I just thought the scene just sounded so funny. Yeah, it just sounded so funny in the book when I listened to it. You know, that I was hoping that they would do it in the movie, because that's the kind of thing a special effects, you know, artist would love doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember the Sharp adaptations with Sean Bean?
I've seen some of them.
one of the limitations for all of those Napoleonic things with like the soldiers running around trying to do the battlefields is the limitations of trying to make a lot of people appear at once. And I thought in this, they actually made some of those scenes with the redcoat soldiers look like there were people. And that's one of the difficult things to recreate for a lot of this. Oh, we have an army, and it's like 3 guys walking past, and then they run behind the camera, and it's the same 3 guys walk past again. There are all these tricks to try and make it look better. But I was surprised. This reminded me very, very much of a lot of the old Sharp episodes, but with that slightly elevated budget, and also then the zombie effects and that modern sort of Hollywood gloss to it. So it was this really weird thing that it was evoking a sense of that British made-for-TV, which we saw with some of the Pride and Prejudice, that it was evoking that, but with a bit of a Hollywood gloss to it. And I thought it was a wonderful balance between that sort of evocation of the traditional and the evocation of, oh no, but this is a Hollywood movie with zombies. Let's have this thing blow up. And it was a really nice balance.
I love that you have that, like, this is what the British TV does typically, and then you felt like they evoked that. That's interesting, because as Americans, like we sometimes see British TV or movies. Yeah. Well, we see that sometimes. But we don't necessarily like think about that being like incorporated. I love that. That's amazing.
Well, I think like one of the big differences is like British TV just never had the budget that American TV.
No,
never.
They don't.
And even the color saturation that you quite often got in American TV shows, that they were so much brighter and much, much richer colors. Whereas British TV, they're like, yeah, we're filming outside. It was raining. It's a bit gray. Like, carry on. And it just is this slightly more down to earth kind of approach to it. And it gives it quite often like a charming authenticity that you don't get with the stylized nature of a lot of the American approach. And seeing them kind of blended, where you get that, you know, Colin Firth coming up out of the water, you know, all dripping wet, and everyone's like, my mind. But if that was in an American one, like he would have ripped the shirt off, he would have been busting out a 6-pack, flexing his abs, and, you know, striding up, and yes, you know, it would have gone over the top, but it's slightly more understated. Trying to do a balance between a very understated story like Pride and Prejudice, where so much is subtext, so much is the implication, so much is the subtle digs at people, or the not so subtle digs at people, but it's in the nuance. And if you go extravagant with that, then you lose a lot of that framing and that atmosphere, and it feels alien. So I just thought it was a fun balance between.
Anything else on that, anybody?
Just if you haven't seen this, go watch the movie. If you enjoy it, try reading the book. It's a different experience, but just as enjoyable.
So down to a couple of things we haven't talked about yet. Let's go with this next one here. Best and if you want, worst actors. I didn't see anybody that was a worst actor in this. So, you know, best actors, who would you give the nod to in this movie?
Matt Smith made me so happy.
God damn it, I was going to take that one.
He was so bumbling, and it's just it's a less skeevy take on Mr. Collins.
Yeah.
Even the original.
Any of the other three?
Pretty skeevy. He still came off as an utter douchebag. So I appreciated that. He just did it in a very different way, which is appreciated. And it was funny. He had me laughing.
When I heard he was in the movie, I was like, oh my God, he's Mr. Darcy. And then, no, he was Mr. Collins. And I was just like, what? But why wouldn't he be Mr. Darcy? And yeah, well, so seeing it, he's been in so many roles. So some of his most prominent are 1, Doctor Who, and 2, The Crown. And so those are literally the 2 extremes. So Collins and Mr. Darcy. And
I would dare say Doctor Who, he pretty much covered the gambit with that character.
He really did.
I don't know if anybody here is a Whovian, but that character went through a lot.
He did.
And
if you like Pride and Prejudice, watch this most recent episode of Doctor Who. Trust me. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, if you like Bridgerton, watch the most recent episode of Doctor Who.
Okay, yes.
If you like Pride and Prejudice, go back and watch Pompadour. Way back in David Tennant.
Okay. But Leigh-A, you were saying, I'm sorry, I threw us off.
I lost my train of thought.
No, she was saying the 2 extremes of
they're the
Doctor
2.
Who.
They're like, yeah, so Matt Smith does have like the 2 extremes. Like, and yes, but in Doctor Who, he's much more like flipping all over. He does have a serious, but it's not the Mr. Darcy style serious, where in The Crown he is very serious. So he is a character, an actor who is very capable of doing
my favorite Mr.
all
Collins.
of these.
My favorite Mr. Collins is still David Vander.
I think this is my favorite Mr. Collins.
That's what I love about it.
No,
that's exactly what he was supposed to be.
But my second favorite is from, because that's
Hollander.
Yeah, yours is from the miniseries. Mine is from the Keira Knightley one. Yeah, that's my favorite.
AP, who'd you like as actor in this one?
Well, I honestly don't think that there were any bad performances at all. But I have to admit, was it Sally Phillips and Charles Dance as Mr. and Mrs. Bennet?
Yes.
I really liked them. I thought they played off each other really well. It wasn't the same versions of the characters that we see, and it was
very
fun.
different.
And well, Charles Dance is always delightful in things as that kind of very gruff, but Phillips did a brilliant job as Mrs. Bennet, which can be a role that can just be so grating and annoying.
Yeah.
And there was an element to her portrayal that actually was slightly more human than normal. And
I'd agree.
I like that. I enjoyed it.
And I think it was a brilliant change, because if she went on the same way she goes on in the regular book, you would want to strangle her. With the zombie outbreak going on, this is your focus? What is wrong with you? And you would be angry at her.
Yeah.
So I think it was a brilliant change to sort of just tune that down a little bit. Definitely helped.
I had Sally Phillips down as my number 1 for this movie. Out of the 3 that I always give. So I'm glad to see somebody else took her as well.
I never pick the ones that you pick.
I know.
Yeah. I think this is my favorite Jane, Bella Heathcote. I really liked her as Jane. She's my silver medal.
What?
But I liked her as Jane. But even though she's not who I have in my head canon as Lily James, I think was the best thing in this movie. And I will admit up front, I've been a Lily James fan since she first appeared on Downton Abbey. And that was half the reason I paid attention to the commercial when the trailer for this was on TV. It's Lily James. Oh, okay. So it's like, so I went in already predisposed to liking her more than the others, but for what it is, it's what it is. So any other actors anybody want to bring up?
I kept waiting for Charles Dance to do something horrible. I'm not used to him playing a decent father. Because Sandman, he's so horrible. Game of Thrones, he's god awful. I kept waiting for him to do something horrible. I'm like, I know he's not gonna. I've read the book, but at the same time.
I
really was impressed with all of them managing to convey in a zombie Pride and Prejudice that they weren't breaking character. Like they did something that is actually quite made it believable, and it was fun, and they still communicated that while making us enjoy the world and believe in the characters and believe in the reality of the characters to make this diegesis sort of come alive. And with so much of it riding on Darcy and Lizzie, like so many scenes hinge on those two. And they worked. I just stop. She's not Elizabeth Bennet in my head. No matter how good a job she did.
Yeah, she's not Lizzie Bennet.
Yeah. And
who's Jennifer Ely?
I didn't buy their chemistry.
The two of them?
What I bought for them was camaraderie. But I didn't feel chemistry from them. So it was like, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to slay people. You're good at this. Like, okay, cool. Like, I kind of hate you at first. And I've totally had this relationship with people. Whereas like, no, I don't like you, but we actually get along. And so like, we're just going to have this mutual, like we mostly don't hate each other. And we're just going to do our thing and go slay the world. So
more brotherhood arms sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, like I don't even have to like you, but like we are just going to we have mutual things and we have no reasons to seriously dislike each other.
So would you accept them as brothers in arms with benefits? Like,
I would.
Oh, actually, yes, because in the heat of battle, and so if you like in
right after battle,
Glenn and I have talked about doing the War of the Rats, which is the book.
I know. I was waiting for her to finish that too. I'm like, wait, what?
the enemy at the gates. Yes. So, which is, but there's this like tension when you're in this combat situation where sometimes you're just like, all right, we just need to fuck because we're the only people there and we may or may not like each other, but this is like,
and you might die in 10 seconds.
Yeah. And it's like, and actually the book does the fuck the movie's shit. The movie's good. The movie's good for watching, but the book is really good about this whole talking about the tension and like you're there and you're just in these situations where that's the only thing that you have is like you and one or two other people and you just go like it's fascinating. It's not even pornographic. It's not even smut, which I love, but
this is where I think the book will always have a massive advantage because we are reading these lines, we're pausing on it, we're giving these moments weight and interpretation, and when it says they glanced at one another, like in our head, we have now created this look that ends all looks.
So right,
that can never ever be replicated on the screen. It just can't, because what we create is a million times more powerful than any other person's vision of it that is going to translate to cellular. But I think there was enough there in this movie to make it believable that they're like, want to bang? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And for a movie with zombies, that was enough.
That's also not what they say in the movie. Like, they don't even come close to let's bang. Because they're still going by.
Well, verily, wouldst thou bang me, my lady?
Would you allow me to
Exactly.
virginal petalgate?
But
Did you know her? Did you know her?
No,
sir?
but it creates a different sexual tension, which is
Yeah.
again, like I think that's why the author, and again the movies do this interesting thing with like their sexual tension, make it very different. So it's all about. It's very different than what Jane Austen wrote.
I know, but Jane Austen was writing a Regency romance. This is
knew
Pride and Prejudice. And
exactly. They did something completely different, and it's this entire
And
like
it works.
war style like tension of like we are the only two people who are as good as we are at their thing, and both the book and the movie do this, and again, like I don't necessarily know that leads to the epic romance that a lot of people are thinking about. What I think it leads to is like we are brothers in arms. I'm just gonna like not gender. I'm gonna say brothers in arms, and we are fighting for the same thing, and sometimes like maybe we might want to fuck. That's cool. Awesome. And it's not an epic romance. I don't think what Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies does is like that's not an epic romance. They are just like, yeah, we're just gonna like literally fuck up the entire zombie world, and we're gonna like bond on this. But it's not.
I know,
an
but
epic
that's like saying
fucking
The Lord of the Rings. Well, it didn't do epic romance. You go, but it wasn't trying to do epic romance.
Lord of the Rings had nothing to do with romance.
Oh, you tell that to Gimli and Legolas.
Okay. I step back. I retract my statement.
But what I'm saying is Pride and Prejudice was a romance. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies has no pretensions of being a romance. It's not trying to do that. It's making Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. It has shifted genre. It has shifted everything over that way. So
I agree.
Genre conventions, and you sort of, but it wasn't trying to do that. So it's not that it failed to do it. It didn't. That wasn't what it was doing.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
It never attempted.
But I still Battle Brothers with benefits. There we go. That's what they were after.
Battle buddies.
Thanks for letting me go for that long monologue, just to like be like, yes, I agree with you.
I just love that you're so eloquent, and then you just throw, and they just want to fuck. I'm like, all right, there it is.
With Mistress Leigh-A for you. You know, people watching, if you don't know, she's part of the reason why we got rid of our rule against the F-bomb. So having to put a bleep on her every time she dropped it, just as an editor, I'm like, nope, we're just gonna swear. So fuck it, we swear now. All right, you guys ready to move on to themes? Well, not quite the last thing we have to talk about. We've kind of hit up on themes. Were there any other themes that stood out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've hit just about all the little minutiae so far.
And that leaves the one thing we only do for movies or the end of the season, and this is kind of both. And that's rating the film. So, having read the book, how would you rate the accuracy of the show film out of 10? This is not saying it's good or bad. This is just its accuracy.
Accuracy to the book?
Yeah.
Negative
to the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Oh,
negative.
Wow.
Well, no, actually,
Thank you.
Honestly, I'd probably give it out of 10, probably a 3. The characters are there, the zombies are there, but there is a huge shift in the whole sub-story of, you know, sentient zombies that don't want to hurt people, you know, the Antichrist, the Four Horsemen, all of that is sort of invention. So just strictly on accuracy, it's basics, yes. Beyond that, no.
AP?
Well, oddly enough, so I think we can all agree that the characters are all pretty much as they are in the books. So characters,
Yeah.
like one of the fundamental aspects of how a narrative created. For the first 2/3 of it, the narrative events are pretty much representing the narrative events that happen in the book. So that's actually at least 2/3, maybe 50% to 2/3. So that's actually very, very good. The setting was remarkably accurate to the setting in the book. So we have characters, most of the plot, the setting, tone, and atmosphere. Well, they are the same as the books. So hang on a second. What are you saying is divergent? That some of the plot changed, and that's why you've rated it so lowly. That
I wouldn't
you
say
rated
some.
it.
I would say it not only changes, but it fundamentally changes the outlook and narrative of the story. I mean, it goes from being this romance with zombies, with, you know, a little bit of action, a little bit of
not
romance.
It's a lifestyle.
You know, sure.
But why does that
No,
make it
okay,
a
first of
bad
all,
adaptation?
it's not meant to be a
I
romance.
didn't say it does. I said
Okay,
on
sorry.
accuracy compared to the book, that's
But
very different.
It is accurate in terms of a lot of its tone, its style. It's accurate in terms
I gave
of
it 3
the setting.
points for
It's
that.
accurate in terms of the characters. Like, it's accurate in so much. And then what it did was it shifted genre slightly. And you go, right, so it shifted genre and it shifted medium. And because it shifted medium, it then had to alter plot. So I'm just going, like, in terms of a fairly faithful adaptation, you look at that film and you look at that book and go, yeah, I can definitely see that book and that film are very directly related, that they are articulations of each other.
Yes and no. When you change the entire plot line, no. Because
the entire plot line? Hyperbola, I summon thee.
Okay, yeah, it absolutely does. Let's take the book from that midpoint before we do anything about that abbey. Let's take the book. What happens from that point on? And let's compare it to what happens in the movie. The themes change.
But you get the whole first
characters change
and
in
then
their actions.
The whole other stuff.
Hold on. They are changing their actions, are they not? They're doing things they weren't doing in the book. That would be inaccurate to the book. We're talking about accuracy, not whether it was a good adaptation or not. It's not accurate.
If you have to change the format for what you're doing, and you go, we have to remove this entire section, and we add in something else that fits with the character actions within that, then that's accuracy in terms of character action. And it's all it has changed is plot, which is one element.
Yeah, but that's just one element.
Yeah, but so they change plot, one element, but then the accuracy with character setting, like all of those things. So all of the other elements are incredibly accurate. Plot was the major thing that changed. And if plot is the only thing that changed, that's why I'm asking, why do you think it is so inaccurate? And it's
because when they changed the plot, it changed their motivation. It changed their
motivation remains the same.
No, it completely changes because now it's all about the Antichrist, the 4 horsemen, and stopping this apocalypse thing that does not occur in the book. So when we're talking accuracy, you shoot a gun, you're either accurate, you hit the target, or you miss. This is accuracy.
Can I step in here?
They missed where the book went. That's all I'm saying. They missed where the book went.
Yes, you guys are obviously going to be able to debate this for a while, but I also have a hot take.
Yeah, we can.
Which, if you guys don't mind,
help yourself.
Yeah.
I do agree a little bit more with Matt Stagger than AP. I do think that there was a lot of context that was kept from the books, but I do rate it much lower because it, like, just again, the entire plot completely diverges for the most part. Like, there are so many other things that happens that are off nominal from the plot. On top of that, it's like again, like getting to the Wickham thing. Like the Wickham thing is the worst sin.
She cannot accept Wickham.
I know, I cannot. It's the worst sin. So like if they
The
have,
cinema
like,
sin.
yes, but again, like that is like the biggest fucking change. And the fact that like I didn't even like realize that there was that in the middle of the credits scene that happened, that he came back.
Oh, he was very badass in that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. You know what? He's not allowed to be badass. I don't appreciate that. No, it's not going to happen. I don't appreciate it.
Just saying he was.
No, but that's the. So there were a lot of like. The movie does keep to some of the fundamentals of the story. Yes, but it does deviate a lot, and in some ways, like in the most fundamental ways, like it changes people's character, it changes like minor storylines. So yes, it does keep a little bit to it, but I think that's why I also rate it very low. I will rate it at a 3 as well. Because like
Wow.
but I think that they assume a lot that the audience is going to know, like I said earlier, they're going to know the story of Pride and Prejudice, and they're going to make these assumptions. And what they do off of the Pride, Prejudice, and Zombie book, not Pride and Prejudice, Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, is like it's. I really liked the way, like I disagree. Like I like the way Pride, Prejudice, Zombies, the book went. I appreciate a lot of things about the movie. As an adaptation, I really enjoyed the adaptation, but as an adaptation of that book,
you both give it a 3.
I say a 3. I say a 3. Yeah.
For accuracy, good or bad, it's just how close did it hit
right
the piece of the book.
For me, I would say the accuracy.
I might change it to a 5 and say 50% because we did get a lot that was right up to that line. But once that storyline starts, it completely changes.
Yeah.
I kind of gave my answer earlier in the episode tonight when I said it's 2/3 of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and 1/3 something new. So yeah. I'll say it's 6.7 is what I'll give for a score.
So you got me to change from 3 to 5. So I hope you're happy.
AP, did you have a number?
I would take that as a win.
I changed 3 to 5. I will accept 5 because you're right. Yeah. Half of it was absolutely straight from the book, and the characters are still the characters. Absolutely, they're just doing things that they normally didn't do in the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies book. So, yeah.
Right. So, what do you guys think of this as a film in and of itself, in its own genre? Just as a film, trying to separate yourself from the book, either book.
I loved it.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's just fun. It is a fun movie, and I'm not even mad at the changes they made. I got it, I understood it, and I went, okay, this is all new. Let's go. So, yeah, I've loved it. It was very enjoyable. I will watch this many times.
I like it. I'd give it probably a 7 is my score for it as a film. Separate from the books.
It's a great popcorn movie. You just make a big thing of popcorn, sit down, and stab things. I got zombies. It's awesome.
Uh-oh. I don't know the answer to that, Holocausty. Collective noun for us, huh?
For a group of
pedants. Me.
Sounds like a Google thing.
A Google of Glenn's.
Douchebags? I don't know. We're all pedantic sometimes. Take your pick.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. AP, thank you. This has been fun having you on. Sorry we weren't able to do last week. I had a migraine and just wasn't going to work.
You didn't give AP or me the chance to talk about
Didn't I?
No?
I have toe. I'm sorry.
No, you do.
Go for it.
That's okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
AP,
I'll let you go first.
what did you think about the movie overall in its own rights?
But that I loved it. Like it is so much fun, and it is one of those off the wall ideas that why did no one ever do this before? And then people have copied it, and we were talking earlier about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer or Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I can't remember
Hunter.
Yeah,
and
that one.
It just wasn't the same. That for some reason this just worked on a level that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it was the thematic tying up of, because this is about that Pride and Prejudice, and you can see it all working out. The stratification of the class system is exaggerated because of now the inclusion of the zombies, and like everything just worked. And you don't have that with the other ones that are just going, oh, well, we'll just stick vampires in a historical period and have people fight them. And this one worked. And it worked for a reason. And it was a lot of fun. They built on stuff that was in the novel and made it clear, like that division between the training in China or training in Japan, that they made into a little centerpiece, a little touchstone that they kept coming back to. That was so wonderful. And I had a blast watching it the first time, and it was great to get to rewatch it for this.
Yeah. Leigh-A?
Again, I wish I had watched it before I had read the books. But I did really enjoy the movie once I separated what was like the changes that the author had made for the books. And and then it's an adaptation. I loved and I said this earlier, showing the siege of London, some of the more visceral, like which you couldn't, like, obviously based off of Jane Austen's writings, like it's would not have been very descriptive, but like just the visceral, like what life looked like, how awful it was, how combative it was, how overwhelming it was. I really, really enjoyed that. I loved Lena Headey, even though like she's not my to Berg. Like her performance was fucking amazing. She is fucking the bomb all the time. But yeah, and just like I think the graphics were amazing. I think everything, like the even though it's not my favorite Pride and Prejudice.
How dare you?
I know which one that is. I'm sure I know which one that is.
I've already said what it is. Actually, I don't know which one it is, but this one's not my favorite, but I did really, 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 really love this.
It's
so like individually outside of the books, I really do wish I had watched this before I read the books, so I wouldn't have been quite as judgmental. So if you haven't read the books, watch this first. That's my recommendation. The one few times that I will say this, watch the movie before the books. And that's all I have to say.
All right. I got to say, I really liked this book a lot more than I thought I would, so
the book was
I kind of got burned out on zombie stuff a while back, after watching so much of The Walking Dead and Dead Set and every other zombie TV show I could get my hands on.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get away from it. And this is the first time I've gone back to the zombie thing. So, well, now that you guys are actually done, I can wrap this up then. Sorry about jumping the gun on that. I can't believe I did that. AP, it's always good having you on. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much.
And Leigh-A, it's been a blast having you on for most of this run of Pride and Prejudice. I thought it was a great idea to have you on as our regular guest. I'm probably going to do this more often. Started with Mitch. Mitch was on for all of the entire season of The Expanse. You for most of the season of this, and we've got somebody coming up for most of the season of, well, our next show we're going to be discussing is the Netflix live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender. And we've got a special guest or two coming from Dragonmount, and they'll be here. So look forward to that. We'll be taking the next few weeks off, and I'm not sure offhand our next start date. Bill, do you have your calendar open there by any chance?
I do not, but I can check real quick.
Yeah, if you could look real quick. Bill will find out when our next episode, when we start Pride or Avatar: The Last Airbender. But yeah, Tom's going to be on. He's going to be taking over for a while for my seat because I'm going to be taking a break. I need a little bit of time away from doing YouTube every week, so it can be a little bit tiring. I'm sure some content creators can attest to that.
You know what? But also good for you for mental health stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very big on mental health. So,
Glenn, I would recommend go out in the middle of the night with a sword and attack hedges. I know I've seen it somewhere.
Hedges, yeah.
Topiary, yes.
Somewhere it helps.
Yeah. I just saw it last night too. What'd you find out, Bill? Did you got a date?
I think we're going to have to go through. It's a little messed up. It's telling me that June 9th we're doing this.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll figure it out. And I'll be in the description box after I've got the date cleared. So thanks for watching. Please come back again soon, and don't forget to be awesome.
See ya.